Alright guys, so for this next tutorial, what you're going to see is a few different exercises and a few different training modalities to increase the mobility of your neck, but also the overall strength of your neck. What you'll need is some resistance bands and a towel, but really the equipment that you see is it's all relatively inexpensive. There are pieces of equipment out there that do a similar type thing for your neck stability, strength, and overall mobility. However, the tutorial that you're about to see is inexpensive pieces of equipment primarily used with the resistance bands. And we're going to talk about the neck. Got two different weighted bands. So this resistant band, black in color, purple in color, slightly different in thickness. All right. So why that's important is find a couple of bands that are good for you. They're relatively cheap, inexpensive, last a long time. They're versatile. You can use them for a lot of different things. So for today, I'm going to show you an exercise for neck strengthening. Now, there's a device out there, if you guys are familiar with it, called the Iron Neck. My previous place of employment, we had a couple of them, and they are a great tool, but it's an expensive tool. And you know, if you have the opportunity to use them, great. This is an inexpensive way to use a similar range of motion and to stimulate a very, very similar activation with the neck muscles. All right, so this is how I'm going to set it up. I'm going to girth hitch it around an anchor point. So I'm going to get myself into position with the band literally around kind of my eyebrows. And I'm going to put a little bit of pressure, good stabilization here with the core, engage the pelvis, organize the hips, engage the shoulder blades. Everything is tight and in line, and you're cognizant of your alignment, all right? So when we're in this position, if you notice there's a little bit of tension onto the band, this is what we want. Once we get into position, without moving our feet, we're going to literally move our chin and nose forward. So what we're trying to do is picture elongating our neck and our chin essentially forward a couple of inches. So it may be difficult to see from that position, but essentially what we're after is subtle movements of maybe 2 or 3 inches. You can feel the strain, and you feel these muscles on the forefront of our neck being really, really activated here. So we'll do sets of maybe 10 to 12, and then I'll show you a couple of different angle changes. All right, so get up to 10, 12, you should feel a little bit of a burn in this position here. And then all we're going to simply do is rotate. The anchor point stays the same, but we're going to rotate the band on a different angle. And then we're going to activate a very similar movement with the head. So if you can picture the head literally moving towards the left side of our body with a little bit of strain onto the anchor point off the right hand side, your left as you're viewing it. And this puts a lot of strain, healthy strain, onto the external part of the neck here. We're going to try to build up all those stabilizing muscles around the neck. In the event that you take a shot to the jaw, for example, having a strong neck will then help minimize the amount of shock that's going into the brain. Right? So, and then we'll literally do a circle. Right? So change the angle once again. Now the pressure is into the back side of the neck. Adopt an athletic, fighting stance. So you're in your combat stance, for example, and then we're going to move through that range of motion, keeping the nose and the chin in relative line, so we don't have basically our chin kind of goosenecking or our nose going too far up, too far down. And we'll bring it back a couple of inches and then reset. Back a couple of inches, reset. Again, each one of these ranges of motion, might be 10 to 15 repetitions before we alter the positional change. And so the anchor point stays the same. The only thing that's different, what's different is the position of our feet. Right, so once again, a couple of inches, adjust your feet if you have to. A little bit of a progression or a regression. If you want more of a challenge, get farther away from the anchor point, you're going to get more of a challenge. If you would like a little bit less of a challenge, be a little bit more sympathetic, then you can move closer to the anchor point. And so as we adjust the feet, strain onto the band, reset. Ensuring that the body and everything is in line, core is engaged. So that's one exercise for the neck. You know, do this again, maybe 2 or 3 times a week for the next exercises. That's what I tried to implement. For the shoulders, literally I try to do that before every workout. Maybe 5-10 minutes before every workout. Sometimes I don't always get to it, so I'll try to implement it after the workout. But for these particular neck exercises, at least once, sometimes twice a week for, again, 5 to 10 minutes, various different angle changes, working the neck muscles. All right, so for the last iteration, we'll show for some neck strengthening exercises. If you're a wrestler or you've got a bit of a wrestling background or martial arts background, it's probably not uncommon for you. But if you don't, then maybe this is a new position for you, right? So neck bridging, there's a couple ways to do it. I'm gonna give you a demonstration on a few ways that I like to implement some neck bridging. Right? So the first one, you can use a towel if you've got a mat or what have you. Our forehead will literally be onto the ground, and I'll show you a progression and a regression for each one. All right, so we're in this position. So if you'd like a little bit of a progression, so something that's maybe less challenging, you can keep your hands onto the ground. And in fact, what I like to do is start out like this, and then eventually lift my hands off the ground and just place them onto my back. So I'll show you what it looks like. So again, maybe 15, 20 reps. We're gonna go through the full range of motion with the intent to touch our nose onto the ground, and then make contact with the crown part of the head. So a full range of motion where the nose is going to touch the ground here, and then the crown of the head, basically where the hair would separate, if you had a nice head of hair, where the hair would separate on your head, that's what we want to roll into. So nice and easy through that full range of motion. Once you've done 10 or 15 repetitions, then if you would like a progression, make it a little bit more challenging, take the hands off of the ground and place them into your back like this. All right, so we've gone through 10 to 15, full range of motion, touching the nose. And then you can place your hands on your back, again, nice and slow, going through that full range of motion with the intent to touch our nose and then the crown of our head. Once you've done that, then one we can do is basically reverse the roll. So first one we just did was belly down, and next one we do belly up. Essentially how it looks. Get yourself situated. Feet are activated, heels are close to your backside. We're going to elevate the hips, which then will elevate our entire body onto our neck and head. All right, so we're going to go hips up, and then we're going to make the intent to look as far as we possibly can, and then back down. So as we go back down, nice and slow, you'll feel the vertebrae kind of roll onto the ground. Once you find that start neutral position, ensure that your feet are activated and flat on the ground. Hips go up, and then the head goes back, and nice and slow, back down. So again, 10 to 15 reps, and then what I like to do is do the same motion, but I'll change the position of where I'm looking. So the motion stays the same. The difference is now I'm situated with the gaze looking over one shoulder, and then I'm going to lift the hips and then rotate so the hips come off the ground. But what happens is the head placement stays the same, so you're activating different muscle groups in and around the spinal column, which is in turn strengthening the overall neck. Right? So again, I'll look in this direction, 10 to 15 reps, nice and slow, and then switch it over. So now we're head the opposite ear on the ground, looking in the opposite direction. Hips come up, rotate, and back down, nice and slow. And you'll feel this all through your neck. You may also, depending on where you feel tightness, you may feel in your posterior chain, in and around your hip joints. In all reality, depending on how active of an athlete you might be, you might even feel in the IT band. So it's a great overall exercise, but essentially, this is the focus is on the neck. All right, so once again, hips up, rotate down, chin position, head position, straight up, all the way back, back down, and then we'll go through that range of motion. Nice and slow and deliberate. All right, guys, so there's a few different exercises to help keep the shoulders bulletproof, neck nice and strong. And there's some variations as well to these exercises. But for today, this is what I have for you. Hopefully you can implement a piece of this or some of this or all of it into your workout, which will keep your shoulders nice and healthy and your neck nice and strong. So not only can you take a punch, but you stay in the fight, so you can then return that level of aggression onto somebody that chooses to do something harmful to you or your family. The better you can move, the more efficient you're going to be as a combat athlete. All right, guys, so hopefully you enjoyed that and took something out of it, and reach out to me anytime, send me a message. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Again, it's Randy at Direct Action. You can reach me at randy@directactions.ca. You can also hit me up on the Instagram channel or the YouTube channel, Direct Action Combat Performance. Thanks, guys.